Hello, eighth grade. Happy Wednesday. Oh, that was some bad singing, huh? Maybe I should stick to my day job of teaching. Maybe. Okay. Today we are learning about appeasement. It sounds like a really big word, but I am sure that you have all been appeased at some point in your life. Appeasement is the policy of giving in to try to avoid a conflict. Um, I think the biggest example that might come to mind is like a toddler at the store, say someone like Shay, okay, she's not quite two. If she sees like a toy or a candy bar or something that she really, really, really wants, and if I say no and she starts throwing a huge fit, um, that would be embarrassing for me, right? I don't want my almost 2 year old like kicking and screaming on the floor of Walmart. So I might appease her. I might give in and give her that toy or that candy bar in order to hopefully get her to stop having the full blown temper tantrum in the middle of Walmart. Um, so that is probably the easiest idea of appeasement that I can give you. I want you to be thinking about a time when you have been appeased or when you have appeased someone in order to avoid a conflict or a fight or a disagreement or an argument, because you will need to share an example as your final question today. So let's go ahead and get started. Here is the reading for social studies today. So, appeasement before World War II. Appeasement is the policy of making concessions, giving in order to avoid a conflict. In the 1930s, it became the dominant French and British international policy toward Germany and other aggressive nations. Okay, so it became the policy of French and Britain to pretty much just give in to Germany. Keep in mind, we had finished World War One, okay, at the very like end of the 1910s, so like 1919, something like that. um it was the 1930s. We did not want another world war. So the countries were like, well, maybe if we just keep giving in to Germany and those other aggressive countries, maybe we can avoid a war. Remember, we just read about those five dictatorships. A dictatorship is not the best government. That is when typically one person has complete control over the country. And typically, in a government where there is a totalitarian leader or a dictatorship, those nations tend to be very aggressive. The League of Nations had been created to peacefully resolve international disputes. However, without the United States as a member or any military force, it was ineffective at preventing belligerent nations from violating agreements. Okay, this is your first and second Google form question. Or sorry, not Google form, it's a Google Doc today. Ooh. Your first question right here: why was the League of Nations ineffective? Right there. What does it say? Why was it ineffective? Why didn't it work? Your second Google Doc question: what does the word belligerent mean? So they didn't have the United States to help. They didn't have military force. We already know these nations were aggressive. It was ineffective at preventing belligerent nations from violating agreements. If you still don't have it, you can always go to dictionary.com and look up the answer. Okay, second paragraph. When Italy invaded Ethiopia and Japan invaded Manchuria and China, the League could do nothing but impose economic sanctions. An economic sanction is like a money punishment. We can't give you a punishment. You really should not have gone and invaded those countries. We can't do anything about it, but maybe we'll fine you. Okay. If you follow sports, sometimes they do that to athletes. If they get caught with steroids or arguing with an umpire or get thrown out of a game, something like that in baseball, they might get an economic sanction, which would be a fine that they have to pay to the league. Adolf Hitler realized that democracies sought to avoid a confrontation and continued to test their limits. First, he remilitarized the Rhineland, then turned his sights on a region of German speakers in Czechoslovakia known as the Sudetenland. Okay, so now we have Germany starting to take over, and Germany forming a military in places. If you remember with the Treaty of Versailles at the end of World War I, that was a no-no. Germany wasn't supposed to do that. In September 1938, British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain met with Hitler in Munich to discuss his demands. The Sudetenland held most of Czechoslovakia's border defenses, heavy industries, and banks. Without consulting Czech authorities, however, Chamberlain pledged to give Germany all the areas with a German population of more than 50%. France was persuaded to agree. Hitler then demanded all the Sudetenland, and Britain and France agreed to his demands. Chamberlain returned to Great Britain, claiming he had secured peace for our time. Okay, next Google Doc question. What do you think Hitler felt about Chamberlain? How do you think he viewed him? Do you think he viewed him as someone who was bold and confident? Do you think he viewed him as someone who maybe was a little on the weaker side and would do whatever he was told and would believe whatever he was told? So I'm sure the meeting went something like this, with Hitler saying, "Oh, yeah, if you just give me all of this land, I am completely good with that. I just want this land, then I'll be good, I promise." Okay? Do you think that's what happened? Appeasement was not without its critics, however. Winston Churchill believed in a firm stand against Nazi Germany. When Germany seized the remainder of Czechoslovakia in March 1939, it was clear that appeasement had failed. Who would have guessed? Chamberlain resigned, and Churchill became the new Prime Minister of Great Britain. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of quotes. When I think of those 4 terrible years, and I think of the 7 million young men who were killed, the 13 million who were maimed and mutilated, I have said before, and what I say now to all the world, in war, whichever side may call itself the victor, There are no winners, but all are losers. It is those thoughts which have made me feel that it was my prime duty to strain every nerve to avoid a repetition of the Great War in Europe. So Chamberlain did feel bad. He was doing everything in his power to avoid another world war. If that meant giving in to Germany, appeasing Germany, then he was going to try that. Unfortunately, they always say hindsight is 2020, but unfortunately that policy of appeasement didn't work because Hitler then realized that, hey, if they're willing to give me this to avoid a war, what else can I get away with? Okay, I want you thinking. You're all teenagers. I know you have been there and done that. Think about a time when you just keep pressing those buttons so you can see just how much you can get away with before mom or dad or a teacher kind of loses their mind. That's what Hitler was doing. Okay. And another quote, this is from the guy who took over as prime minister once Chamberlain was no longer prime minister. An appeaser is one who feeds a crocodile, hoping it will eat him last. I don't know about you, but I don't think I would want to eat a crocodile or feed a crocodile because it probably would turn and try to eat me. Okay, so today your questions are these 5 Google Doc questions. Number 1, what is the best definition for belligerent? Is it A, weak, B, hostile, C, peaceful? We talked about aggressive nations. Which one of those is a good synonym for aggressive and belligerent? You have 2 choices. You can delete whichever answers you don't want, or you could go and underline whichever answer you want. You could bold whichever answer you want. Either one is completely fine. Number 2, what made the League of Nations ineffective? We already talked about that. Number 3, what was Neville Chamberlain's justification for his policy of appeasement? He knew Hitler would stop if he was given what he wanted. He was trying his hardest to prevent another world war, or he benefited from the land Germany received too. I kind of tricked you a little bit here. Did he know 100% that Hitler would stop if he was given what he wanted? Okay. Go back up to his quote. It is those thoughts which have made me feel that it was my prime duty to avoid repetition of the Great War in Europe. Okay. Why did he use that policy of appeasement? Number 4, based on the Munich Agreement and resulting events, which adjective most likely describes Hitler's view of Chamberlain? Think in the mind of Hitler. If you were Hitler and Chamberlain just kept giving you everything you wanted and believed everything you said, how would Hitler view him? Would he view him as being intimidating and mean and scary? Would he view him as being wise and intelligent and smart? Or would he view him as being maybe a little gullible and maybe I can keep pressing this guy's buttons and just keep on telling him lies and he's going to believe me? And then the last one is the one that I told you about at the beginning. Think of a time you made a concession in order to avoid a conflict. Or think of a time when you've been involved in this, like a time that your parents have made a concession. Okay. That means giving in. So think of a time you have given in to someone, or think of a time when you've been given into. Explain what the conflict was and why you gave in, or why maybe your mom or dad or grandparent gave in. How would the outcome be different if you had not given in? Okay. Um, Going back to that Walmart example with Shay, there's no way of knowing, even if I give her a toy or if I give her the candy bar, she's going to stop the meltdown. So maybe if I don't give in to her, she'll learn for the next time that she can't throw that fit in Walmart, um, even if she doesn't get what she wants. But if I give in to her, she's going to learn pretty quickly. Hmm, I can just keep on throwing temper tantrums, and mom is going to give me exactly what I want. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is social studies for today. I hope you are having a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.